Recently, thanks to my wife's friend, I unexpectedly learned she'd been cheating on me. For 20 years. That's when I chose to end our marriage. Can you imagine spending 2 decades with the person you thought was your high school sweetheart, building a family, a life, only to have everything shatter because of a secret kept for 20 years? My world absolutely imploded when I found out my wife had been unfaithful for pretty much our entire relationship. It all started so innocently. My wife and I, both 43 and 44, have been together for so long. It's hard to remember life without her. We were those high school sweethearts. She was a senior, I was a junior. After high school, we navigated the tricky waters of a long-distance relationship while I finished up and she started college. Eventually, we even ended up in the same city for college. From that moment on, we were inseparable. We got married the summer after I graduated, and honestly, our life together has been wonderful. Or so I thought. Then, just after Christmas, something shifted. We were having a small reunion with some of her old college friends. It was a cozy night, full of laughs and catching up. My wife casually mentioned we met in high school, but she didn't specify we were dating back then. One of her old roommates exclaimed, "Wow, it's amazing you guys met so young, had your wild college years, and still ended up together." I laughed it off, joking, "I don't know if my wife was as wild as I was." That's when it happened. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off. Abruptly. "I don't feel comfortable discussing that," she snapped. A cold dread started to creep in. My gut twisted. Something was definitely wrong. I felt this intense need to clarify things, so I said, "Actually, we started dating in high school and were together her entire college experience." An awkward, heavy silence fell over the table. The rest of the evening was tense, thick with unspoken words. As we were leaving, another roommate pulled me aside. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "You really need to have an honest conversation with your wife about what really happened during her college years." My heart sank. On the drive home, that uneasy feeling just wouldn't leave me. I looked at my wife, the woman I'd spent half my life with, and asked her what her friend was hinting at. She just blew me off. "It's not a big deal," she said dismissively. I insisted, "No, it is a big deal. Please be honest with me." But she just brushed it off again, saying it wasn't important. Her dismissive attitude only amplified my suspicion, sending my thoughts spiraling. When we got home, I knew I had to take a stand. I told her, "Look, I'm going to my brother's house. I'm not coming back until you're ready to tell me the truth about what happened in college." The next day, she showed up at my brother's, visibly anxious. And that's when it all came crashing down. She finally admitted it. She'd slept with several men during her first 2 years of college. She tried to downplay it, saying she didn't think our high school romance would last, and because we were long distance, she didn't consider it a big deal at the time. A ton of bricks? More like a wrecking ball straight to my chest. My breath hitched. All I could feel was this searing, gut-wrenching betrayal. I pressed for more details, the anger rising in my throat. "How many?" She confessed. "At least 10 different men." 10. And it got worse. 3 of them were guys she had introduced to me as friends during my weekend visits. 1 guy she was still in contact with. I was livid. How could she? The waves of anger, sadness, and profound betrayal were overwhelming. I knew, in that moment, our marriage couldn't survive. "I want a divorce," I told her, my voice shaking. "I'll start the paperwork immediately." And I did on January 2nd. Her attempts to minimize her actions, to wave away my feelings like they were nothing, only solidified my decision. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was about the insidious lies and decades of profound disrespect. Then came the chorus of voices. Her family, most of mine, all telling me, "Don't throw away your marriage over a few mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Forgive her." They kept talking about our long history, all the good times. But to me, this wasn't just a few mistakes. This was a pattern of behavior that spanned years. cheating on me with multiple men for 2 whole years. I can't overlook that, no matter when it happened. And the fact that she kept in touch with these guys, introducing them to me right in front of my face, that's an unacceptable level of disrespect. Our kids are 17 and 19, practically adults. I believe they'll understand why I have to do this. This is about preserving my self-respect, my integrity. I felt like I was losing my mind with everyone telling me to ignore years of infidelity and decades of lies. Every single person was urging me to forgive and forget, to salvage what we'd built. They called me unreasonable. But how could I? Every memory we shared was now tainted by her betrayal. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the deceit, the ongoing lies, the sustained friendships with the very men she cheated with. How could I ever trust her again? How could I ever look at her the same way, knowing what she did, and how she just dismissed my feelings when I confronted her? I questioned myself constantly. Am I overreacting? Am I being too harsh? But then I'd remember the pain, the anger, the sickening betrayal that surged through me when she confessed. I remembered nights wondering how she could introduce me to those men, how she could maintain those friendships without a shred of guilt. This isn't something I can just get over. It's a fundamental breach of trust that has absolutely shattered our marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? No, I don't think so. I feel like I'm fighting for my dignity, for my right to not be lied to not be disrespected in such a profound way. It's not about revenge. It's about acknowledging that some lines, once crossed, simply cannot be uncrossed. The reason I'm even telling you this is because my wife and some of her friends tried to gaslight me. They were actually telling me it's normal to sleep with other people in a long-distance relationship, that I was the odd one out for not doing the same. It was infuriating. I needed an outside perspective. Let me be clear, we were definitely exclusive. 20 years ago, dating culture was different. Exclusivity was pretty much the default. Before she left for college, we had a long, tough conversation about maintaining our relationship long distance. She was adamant. She even joked that her dad would come after me if I started sleeping around. A joke that held a lot of weight, showing how serious she was about us staying faithful. Another clear sign? She couldn't attend my senior prom, and when I suggested going with a platonic female friend, she got incredibly upset. Her reaction made it crystal clear how much our relationship meant to her, and that we were together. To avoid hurting her, I skipped my own prom and spent the night with her instead. We might not have explicitly used the word exclusive, but it was deeply understood. I followed up with the roommate who first tipped me off. She revealed that 10 guys was probably on the low end, and then she dropped another bomb. There was at least one pregnancy scare during those years. I had no idea. Honestly, the exact number of guys isn't even the main issue for me anymore. What truly matters is that my wife seemed completely incapable of understanding why her actions were wrong, and why I felt so deeply betrayed. If she'd shown any genuine desire to fix this, it would have made a huge difference. But she didn't. She consistently dismissed my feelings, telling me I was overreacting to what she considered normal behavior. No regret, no consideration for the hurt. Not until she realized I was serious about the divorce paperwork. Only then did she get defensive and angry. But even then, it was clearly more about the consequences for her than my feelings. That lack of remorse was glaring. We did try therapy. In those sessions, she initially tried to shift the blame onto me, suggesting I had pushed her into those situations because I wanted to go to college parties when I visited. But she has since acknowledged it was wrong. While it's still incredibly disrespectful, it's slightly less egregious than if she had intentionally paraded me in front of these men. It's been a complex web of half-truths and omissions. Most of our therapy centered on why I saw her infidelity as such a massive betrayal, and why she didn't. She rationalized it, saying these men weren't relationships, just one-night stands or friends with benefits. Not a big deal, she'd say. My perspective, the nature of the relationships, was irrelevant. We never agreed that behavior like that was acceptable. In fact, She'd actively discouraged me from doing the same. The double standard was absolutely glaring, and it just added to my sense of betrayal. But something shifted. After a couple of therapy sessions, and after talking to some of her own friends, she started to see things differently. She now acknowledges that her actions were a breach of trust. This new shared understanding has actually allowed us to talk more openly, moving from heated arguments to actual productive conversations. This gives me some hope for our future as co-parents, even if saving the marriage feels completely out of reach. But even with that slight shift, two pivotal things came to light that sealed the deal for me. I am 100% committed to this divorce. First, about 10 years ago, we hit a rough patch, almost 2 years without intimacy. She said our physical relationship was monotonous, so I tried to spice things up. Nothing wild, just some light role play. It turned out she was fixated on some intimate experiences from her college days, experiences she wasn't comfortable discussing. She wanted me to recreate them, but when I tried, it made her feel awkward and guilty. It reminded her of other men. The fact that she insisted these experiences were meaningless, yet they still haunted our bedroom a decade later, told me they were far more significant than she was willing to admit. Second, she confessed to flirting with coworkers on business trips since the pandemic ended. She claims nothing physical happened, but it progressed to the point where she went on a date with one of her male colleagues. For me, that was the absolute deal breaker. These revelations shattered any remaining trust one had. The first showed me that past experiences were still actively damaging our present, despite her claims. The second made it clear she was willing to cross boundaries again, even after everything we'd been through. These two factors combined made it utterly impossible for me to see any hope for salvaging our marriage. We've told our kids we're getting a divorce. We explained it stemmed from bad decisions made during college that we couldn't move past. My 19-year-old, who's in college herself, looked at me and asked directly if I had been unfaithful while she was away. It caught my wife off guard, but she bravely admitted to our children that she was the one who cheated. We both agreed to keep the details private from them. It's important to protect them from the more painful aspects of our past. I reassured them both that, despite the separation, we are both fully committed to them. We're even in therapy to ensure we handle this divorce in the best way possible for our family. And I want them to know they can talk to us or a therapist about anything. We've started discussions with a mediator. It looks like we can part ways amicably. We're both financially stable, no major debts, and with the kids older, custody isn't a huge concern. The past few months have been tough, but I'm managing. That original post I made gained so much attention, and it truly validated my feelings, pushing me to seek counseling. My 19-year-old daughter, bless her heart, has had her share of difficult relationships. She's been hurt by boyfriends who cheated or just left her. So it's understandable why her first thought might be that I was the one who cheated, especially since I was the one who initially left the house. Seeing her father leave the family home might have seemed like an admission of guilt. But my wife made it clear to them that she was the one who was unfaithful. Honestly, I'm not overly concerned about the narrative with the kids. My wife hasn't said anything negative about me, and considering her recent admissions and her readiness to file for an amicable divorce after just 6 weeks and 3 counseling sessions, well, it seems she was more prepared to move on than I was. This readiness makes the logistics smoother, but it does sting a bit to see her walking away from a 20-year marriage with apparent ease. I'm fairly certain she's already looking for a new partner. During a meeting with the mediator, she actually mentioned that any infidelity before the divorce is finalized could jeopardize our amicable settlement. I found that statement pretty ironic, given why we're divorcing. At the end of the day, I'm doing my best to come to terms with the end of our marriage. I've been attending therapy on my own, in addition to our couple sessions, just to cope. I'm mentally bracing myself for the likelihood of seeing her with that coworker she only dated. But I'm hopeful I'll find a new place and move out before the divorce is final. If things go smoothly, we should be divorced by summer. Update 2, it's done. My wife and I have officially finalized our divorce. It was uncontested, amicable, minimal disagreements. Our lawyers worked together through mediation, and a judge signed off a few weeks ago. The process was surprisingly straightforward. The only real complication was our 17-year-old. He was adamant about staying with me. Their relationship had really deteriorated. Initially, my ex-wife resisted, ready to challenge the uncontested divorce. But our son made it clear. She could either allow him a few months to process things and try to rebuild their relationship, or she could force him to stay with her until he turned 18 and risk never seeing him again. Even though I felt his stance was a bit harsh, it definitely prompted my ex-wife to back down. So, I have primary physical custody until his birthday later this year. I've encouraged him to stay open to mending things with his mom. She did care for and love him for 17 years, and I've seen him spending more time with her recently, so I'm optimistic they'll reconcile. Financially, we divided everything 50-50ths. She really liked the house, I didn't, so she kept it and most of the furnishings. To balance things, she took out a mortgage to pay me back for half the equity and half the estimated value of the furniture. Other belongings were easy to split. We sold anything harder to divide and split the profits. Luckily, we had a good insurance writer that documented most of our valuable items. Things are actually going well for me personally. Both my kids spend most of their time at my place, and our bond is strong, which was my biggest concern throughout this whole ordeal. I've moved into a new house that I absolutely love. It feels like a fresh start. And in a total midlife crisis move, I traded my minivan for a sleek Lexus LC 550. It's brought a surprising amount of joy. On another positive note, a woman at work from a different department actually invited me out for coffee. I was upfront with her, explaining I'm not ready to date yet. She was incredibly understanding and graciously offered a rain check, saying she'd be happy to go out when I am ready. It was a pleasant surprise. She's smart, funny, and our professional roles are distant enough that there's no awkwardness. My ex and I are still attending couples counseling, but now it's focused on achieving closure and ensuring we can co-parent effectively. These sessions have been invaluable for processing everything and maintaining a healthy environment for our kids. But they've also confirmed that divorce was absolutely the right decision. It's become clear that my ex-wife started dating pretty much as soon as the divorce process began, showing whatever love we had was already fading. I'm pretty sure that co-worker she claimed was just a friend even dropped her off at our last session. Surprisingly, it didn't really upset me. That's a clear sign that I, too, was ready to move on. Healing from the betrayal will take time, but I feel like I'm making good progress. I can confidently say the divorce was the right choice. I've shed more tears in the past 4 months than in the last 20 years combined, but for the past month, I've genuinely felt good about myself. I'm enjoying my newfound independence, staying busy, helping my 17-year-old prepare for college, and looking forward to that coffee date with a smart, funny woman in a month or 2. This journey taught me the immense value of honest communication. Looking back, I wish we had been more transparent from the start. Honesty could have prevented so much pain. It's a lesson I'll carry forward. Most importantly, I've discovered a strength within myself to rebuild and move on. Have you ever been completely blindsided by someone you trusted implicitly? Or have you found the strength to rebuild your life after everything crumbled? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to know.